Tonight, you are not watching a haunted towns video. You are watching a survival map. These are 15 small towns across the U.S. where locals don't say, "Come visit." They say, "Don't stop." And the reason isn't always ghosts. Sometimes it's a place that was emptied by the government and left to rot behind road-closed signs. Sometimes it's a town where the ground can burn for decades, or a river runs the wrong color, or the sun disappears so long your brain forgets what normal feels like. In the next few minutes, I'm counting down the creepiest small towns in America, and I'm not just telling you legends. I'm giving you the real details that make these places unsettling, plus what to watch for if you ever drive nearby. So here's the question. If your GPS rerouted you through one of these towns at night, would you keep driving, or would you turn around? Number 15, Slab City, California. There's a place in Southern California people call the last free place. No rent, no bills, no city hall, and no safety net. Welcome to Slab City, where the streets are sun-baked concrete slabs left behind from an old military site, and the town itself is basically a choose-your-own adventure, written by the desert. In winter, the population swells. Travelers roll in like it's a festival that forgot to end. In summer, the heat turns brutal, and the crowd thins out fast, because this isn't the kind of freedom you can enjoy with a half-charged phone and a single bottle of water. Out here, the sun does not care about your vibes. You'll see Salvation Mountain first. It's bright, painted, almost holy looking. Then you drive a little farther and hit East Zzyzx, where scrap metal becomes art that looks like it crawled out of a post-apocalyptic dream. And when the sun drops, there's the Range, a DIY stage where music and laughter bounce off the dark like the place is trying to prove it still has a heartbeat. But locals will tell you the same thing quietly, without drama. Don't wander into camps like it's a theme park. Don't film people up close without permission. Don't show up unprepared. Bring more water than you think you need. Tell someone where you're going. Download your map before you lose service. Because the scariest part of Slab City isn't a ghost story. It's realizing how fast normal life disappears when the basics are gone. Slab City feels free until you notice how thin the line is between freedom and getting stuck. And if you think a lawless desert town is unsettling, the next place on this list makes you feel watched, even in broad daylight. Number 14, Bodie, California. There's a ghost town in California that doesn't feel abandoned. It feels paused, like everyone stepped out for 5 minutes and never came back. Bodie sits high in the hills where the wind doesn't blow so much as it scrapes. The town boomed during the gold rush era, and then it collapsed the way boom towns do, fast, quiet, and a little embarrassing. Today it's preserved in arrested decay, which is a fancy way of saying the state didn't polish it up for tourists. They left it raw, and that's why it gets under your skin. You walk past dark windows and you can still see the shape of life inside. A chair angled toward nothing. Old bottles lined up like someone meant to wash them. A schoolhouse with desks that look ready for kids who never showed up. Even your voice drops without you noticing, like you're worried the buildings can hear you. But locals and rangers will warn you about one rule more than any other. Don't take anything. Take not a nail, not a piece of glass, not a harmless little souvenir. Part of it is the law. Part of it is the story people swear is real. The body curse. Tourists have mailed items back with apology letters after a streak of disasters at home. True or not, the message is the same. This place doesn't like being touched. And here's the practical part nobody tells you until you're already committed. The road can get rough near the end, weather changes fast at this elevation, and your phone signal might not be the hero you want it to be. If you ever visit places like this, bring water, fuel up before you go, and download your map ahead of time. The creepy part isn't getting scared, it's getting stuck. Bodie isn't terrifying because something jumps out at you, it's terrifying because nothing does. Just wind, empty rooms, and the feeling that time left. But the town refused to follow. And if you think a silent town is eerie, the next one on this list makes silence feel like a warning. Number 13, Point Pleasant, West Virginia. There are towns where the locals avoid the monster. Point Pleasant put it in the middle of downtown and let you take selfies with it. This is a small river town where the Ohio and the Kanawha meet, and for most of the year it feels calm, almost wholesome. But the name that keeps circling back is Mothman, a winged figure with glowing eyes that people swear they saw in 1966. What makes it stick isn't just the sightings, it's what happened next. In 1967, the Silver Bridge collapsed, and the legend fused itself to real history in a way you can't easily shake. Today, Point Pleasant doesn't run from the story. It leans into it. There's a 12-foot Mothman statue that looks way too confident for something that's supposed to be a warning in a museum that treats the whole thing like a case file you can walk through. And every September, the town hosts the Mothman Festival, pulling in crowds who come for the merch, the mystery, and that weird feeling of standing in a place that refuses to let a rumor die. But locals will tell you the creepy part isn't the statue, it's the quiet spots outside town. The back roads near the old TNT area, now a wildlife management zone, where fog sits low, the trees feel too close, and you start hearing every small sound like it has meaning. People go out there trying to prove something at night. And the truth is, you don't need a cryptid for it to go wrong. It's dark, it's remote, and it's easy to get turned around when you're more focused on filming than on where you're walking. So if you ever visit, do the simple things that keep you out of trouble. Stick to legal access points, respect the signs, go with someone, and don't treat the town like a haunted theme park. Because Point Pleasant isn't scary in a Hollywood way, it's scary in a human way. Human. A place where a community took fear, gave it a name, and decided to live with it. And if that idea unsettles you, the next town on this list makes normal feel like the first warning sign. Number 12, Whittier, Alaska. What if I told you there's a town in America where almost everyone lives in the same building, and the only road in and out goes through a tunnel that runs on a schedule? Welcome to Whittier, a tiny coastal town tucked into mountains so steep they look sharpened. On paper, it's beautiful. Water, glaciers, dramatic skies. But the layout feels like someone designed it for a thriller. The Anton Anderson Memorial Tunnel is about 2.5 miles long, one lane shared with trains, and traffic alternates by time slots. Miss your window and you're not a little late. You're stuck outside, watching the mountains decide whether they're letting you in today. Most of Whittier's year-round residents live in Baggage Towers, a 14-story concrete high-rise that used to be tied to military life. Now it's a whole ecosystem: apartments, a small shop, services, neighbors stacked floor to floor like a human filing cabinet. Your commute is an elevator ride and your privacy is optimistic. Imagine sharing a building with your boss, your kid's teacher, the one guy who always knows everyone's business, and the person you accidentally ignored in the hallway yesterday. Now imagine doing that when the weather turns and the tunnel feels like a closing door. And down the road, there's the Buckner Building, an old military structure that's been sitting empty for decades, staring at the bay like it remembers secrets it won't share. Locals don't warn you off Whittier because it's haunted in the Hollywood sense. They warn you because it's easy to underestimate how quickly Alaska can change the rules. If you ever visit, check the tunnel's schedule before you go, fuel up, and don't count on cell service to rescue bad planning. And remember, this isn't a theme park set. People live here. Keep your distance, be respectful, and you'll get the story without becoming the story. Whittier is unsettling because it's real. A town built around one building, one tunnel, and the quiet understanding that sometimes the scariest thing isn't what's in the dark. It's the fact that you can't leave when you want to. And the next town on this list takes that same trapped feeling and turns it into something even tighter. Number 11, Stull, Kansas. There are places that get creepy because something happened. Stull gets creepy because people won't stop showing up, even when they're told not to. Stull isn't really a town the way you're imagining. It's more like a name on a rural stretch of Douglas County, a handful of roads and one location that refuses to die in American folklore. Stull Cemetery. For decades, it's been branded as the gateway to hell. The kind of legend that spreads faster than facts, especially when it comes with dates like Halloween and the spring equinox. And here's what makes it feel real. Not demons, not portals, fences, no trespassing signs, patrol cars rolling by when the calendar gets spooky. Because the legend didn't just stay online, it brought crowds. And crowds brought problems. People sneaking in at night, disrespecting graves, treating a real cemetery like a haunted attraction. The story has layers. A lot of it traces back to old student writing and local whispers that got amplified over the years. Some versions claim a devil appears twice a year. Some even claim a famous religious figure refused to fly over it, which makes a great headline. And an even better reminder that rumors don't need proof to travel. Locals will tell you the same thing in different words. Don't go looking for this place after dark, not because a creature is waiting behind a headstone, but because rural roads don't have streetlights, your GPS can glitch, and you're not the first person to underestimate how quickly a quick visit turns into a bad situation. If you're ever drawn to locations like this, the smartest move is boring. Stay on public roads, respect barriers, don't trespass, and don't film people's homes like they're part of the show. Stull is unsettling because it reveals something about us. Give Americans a forbidden spot and a creepy nickname, and suddenly it becomes a pilgrimage. And if you think a place is scary when it's protected by fences and warnings, the next town on this list doesn't need signs at all, because the landscape itself does the warning for it. Number 10. Marfa, Texas. There's a town in West Texas where the desert does something it's not supposed to do. Lights appear on the horizon, hovering and drifting like they're searching for someone, and no one can agree on what they are. Welcome to Marfa. In daylight, it's calm, artsy, almost too curated, minimalist galleries, quiet streets, big sky. But once the sun drops, people start driving out to the Marfa Lights viewing area and standing in the dark like they're waiting for the desert to confess. And then it happens, a small glow, two glows. A bright one that splits, slides, fades, and comes back again. Far away, unreachable, and somehow personal. Some say it's spirits, some say it's UFOs. Others blame heat layers and distant headlights. The funny part is the explanation doesn't kill the feeling, because even if it's just light bending and human eyes trying to make sense of distance, you're still watching something that looks alive in a place that should be empty. Your brain wants a story, and the desert keeps giving you just enough to write one. Locals will tell you two things. First, don't chase the lights. People have tried, and all they found was miles of nothing, loose gravel, and the kind of darkness that makes a simple wrong turn feel expensive. Second, don't show up unprepared. This is high desert. Nights get cold, service can be spotty, and it's only a quick stop. Is how people end up stuck on the shoulder with a dying phone and no plan. If you ever go, do it the smart way. Use the official viewing pull-off, keep your car lights off once you're parked, and set your camera on something steady instead of swinging it around. Half the weirdness comes from movement your eyes create for you. The other half, well, that's why people keep coming back. Marfa isn't scary because something jumps out. It's scary because the horizon keeps blinking like it knows you're watching. And if that quiet mystery got under your skin, the next town on this list takes unexplainable and turns it into something you can hear even when everything else is silent. Number 9. Taos, New Mexico. There's a town in New Mexico where the silence has a sound, a low, steady hum that some people swear they can hear and everyone else insists it doesn't exist. Welcome to Taos. In daylight, it looks peaceful, almost dreamy. High desert air, art studios, quiet roads, that move here and heal vibe. But at night, a small number of residents report something that turns calm into uncomfortable. A deep, diesel-like vibration, like a truck idling far away. The weird part is it isn't loud. It's persistent. And if you hear it, your brain can't stop listening for it. This isn't just an internet creepypasta either. The Taos hum has been investigated and debated for years, with researchers trying to measure what people were describing. And even with equipment, the story never really got a clean ending. That's what makes it stick. Not because it's supernatural, but because it refuses to be neatly boxed. Locals will warn you about something simple. Don't drive out at midnight trying to chase it like it's a UFO. The hum doesn't behave like a normal source. You'll end up exhausted, tense, and convincing yourself every breeze and power line is the signal. And if you're visiting, don't do the classic mistake of assuming your phone will save you. High desert nights get cold, roads get empty fast, and just one more spot turns into a long drive with no plan. If you ever experience something like this anywhere, there's a practical way to test your reality before the fear takes over. Change rooms. Step outside. Turn off appliances, fans, heaters, anything that vibrates. Write down the time it happens. If it disappears when the power goes off or only exists in one corner of your house, you might be dealing with something mechanical, not mysterious. And if it follows you into the open air, then you'll understand why Taos gets under people's skin. Taos isn't scary because something is chasing you. Taos is scary because the sound makes you doubt yourself. And if that kind of invisible pressure creeps you out, the next town on this list takes isolation to a whole different level, where the map can't help you and the road doesn't forgive mistakes. Number 8, Picher, Oklahoma. If you ever see gray sand dunes in the middle of a town, don't assume it's nature. In Picher, those dunes are mine waste, and they helped erase a whole community. Picher sits in the old tri-state mining district, where laden zinc once meant paychecks, school games, and a town that felt permanent. Then the mining stopped, and the leftovers stayed. Massive piles called chat spread across the landscape like ash-colored hills. They look harmless from a distance. Up close, they're the kind of material you're not supposed to touch, especially if you've got kids in the car and you think this is going to be a quick roadside stop. Underneath the town is another problem you can't see. Abandoned mine tunnels and old shafts. The ground in places isn't solid the way you want it to be. Add in polluted runoff and acid mine drainage, and the local creek became a symbol people still talk about, like a warning sign. This isn't a haunted town. It's a town that got contaminated so slowly that by the time it felt urgent, leaving became the only option. The government eventually stepped in with buyouts and relocation programs, and Picher emptied out. Then in 2008, a powerful tornado tore through the area, and whatever was still hanging on felt like it got pushed over the edge. Here's what makes Picher genuinely unsettling. It looks normal at first. Streets, lots, quiet corners. And then your eyes land on those gray piles, and you realize the danger isn't hiding in the shadows. It's sitting in plain sight, blending into the scenery. If you ever travel through places like this, do the boring, smart stuff that keeps you out of trouble. Don't climb weird hills that aren't on the map. Don't let kids play in dust that looks like sand. And if you hear the word Superfund connected to an area, take 10 seconds to check local guidance before you decide it's a photo op. Picher is creepy because it's real. A town wiped out by what it pulled from the ground, and the next place on this list proves something even worse. Sometimes the safest town is still the one that makes your mind feel trapped. Number 7, Mineral Wells, Texas. There's a town in Texas that used to sell healing like it was a religion. People came here to drink mineral water, soak in it, swear their aches disappeared, and then go home feeling reborn. And right in the middle of that story is a 14-story hotel that still towers over the street like a monument to hope that didn't age well. The Baker Hotel opened in the late 1920s, built to be the crown jewel of a spa town. Picture it in its prime. Dressed up guests, live music, a ballroom up high, and a second floor designed for baths and massages, because the whole brand was wellness before wellness had a logo. Back then, Mineral Wells wasn't creepy. It was aspiration. Then the lights went out. The Baker closed, reopened, closed again, and eventually became something else entirely. Not a resort, not a ruin you can safely explore. More like a sealed-off reminder that some places don't collapse all at once. They just stop being used. And the longer they sit, the more your imagination fills the empty floors. What makes it unsettling is how it's positioned. This isn't a hotel lost in the desert. It's right there in town, staring at you. Daylight doesn't soften it. At dusk, it looks like it's holding its breath. Locals talk about strange vibes, weird stories, late-night shadows in windows, but the real warning isn't supernatural. It's practical. Old buildings are unpredictable. Floors weaken. Stairwells turn into traps. And trespassing doesn't just risk your safety, it risks your freedom when the cops show up and you're standing in the wrong place with a flashlight and a bad excuse. If you ever pass through towns with famous abandoned landmarks, the smart move is simple. Admire from legal viewpoints, look for official tours if they exist, and don't let a photo turn into an ER visit. This place is a lesson in how curiosity can get expensive fast. Mineral Wells feels eerie because it was built to heal people, and now its biggest attraction is the uneasy feeling it gives you. And the next town on this list isn't haunted by a building. It's haunted by what happens when an entire community starts disappearing. Number 6, Cairo, Illinois. Cairo should have been rich. It sits at a geographic cheat code where the Ohio River meets the Mississippi. Two massive waterways, trade routes, history, the kind of location that's supposed to win. Instead, Cairo feels like a city that exhaled and never inhaled again. Stand at Fort Defiance and watch the rivers collide. The water is moving, loud, endless. Then turn around and look at the town. Boarded storefronts, empty blocks, a downtown that looks like someone paused it mid-sentence. What makes Cairo creepy isn't that it's old. It's that it was built for traffic and now it lives with silence. The numbers tell the story without trying to be dramatic. Cairo peaked with over 15,000 people in the early 1900s. Today, it's a fraction of that. And when a town loses that much population, it doesn't just lose neighbors. It loses businesses, services, routines, the little things that make a place feel alive. The grocery options thin out. The job market shifts away, the streets stay, but the reason for them starts to disappear. Cairo is also shaped by water in a way most towns aren't. Levees wrap around it because living at a major confluence comes with flood fear baked into the geography. Even when the river is calm, the town carries that "we've seen what water can do" tension. And in a place already struggling, that kind of risk feels heavier. Locals don't warn you off Cairo because a monster lives in the woods. They warn you because empty buildings aren't a playground. Old structures fail, floors rot, stairs give out. And small towns don't always have quick rescue options if you do something reckless for a shot. If you're ever passing through, the safest way to experience Cairo is the simple way. Stick to public viewpoints like the riverfront and Fort Defiance. Keep your fuel topped off before you get deep into rural stretches. And don't confuse quiet with safe to explore. Cairo is unsettling because it's a reminder that a perfect location can still lose its future. And the next place on this list isn't scary because it's empty. It's scary because people left, but the town never stopped burning. Number 5, Utqiaġvik, Alaska. Imagine stepping outside at noon, and it's still night. No sunrise, no warm glow, just darkness that lasts for weeks, like it's part of the calendar. Welcome to Utqiaġvik, the northernmost city in the United States, perched on the edge of the Arctic Ocean. This place isn't scary because something is hiding in the shadows. It's scary because the shadows don't leave. In winter, the sun drops below the horizon and doesn't come back for around 2 months. Your body loses its normal anchors, sleep gets weird, time feels soft, and when the light disappears, your mind has to decide what to do with all that quiet. And it's not just the darkness, it's the logistics. Utqiaġvik isn't connected to the road system the way most Americans expect. Getting supplies here depends on flights, seasonal shipping, and weather that can change the rules fast. The cold isn't a vibe, it's a factor in every decision. A short walk becomes a calculation. a missed plan becomes a problem. But here's what makes Utqiaġvik unsettling in a different way. People live here, real families, strong community, deep Utqiaġvik roots. In the middle of a place that can feel like the end of the map, you'll see cultural traditions, shared responsibility, and neighbors who check on each other because that's how you survive the dark. There's even a whalebone arch that sits like a symbol on the landscape, reminding you this town isn't remote. It's rooted. Locals will warn visitors in a practical way, don't show up unprepared, and don't treat the Arctic like a photo backdrop. If you ever travel this far north, bring the basics that keep small mistakes from turning serious. Layer properly, plan for delays, keep backup power for your phone, and respect local guidance, because in a place like this, the environment doesn't care how confident you feel. Utqiaġvik is eerie because it forces you to confront a simple truth. When the sun disappears, you don't just lose light, you lose your sense of normal. And the next town on this list proves that you don't even need darkness to feel trapped. Sometimes the ground under you is the warning. Number 4. Skagway, Alaska. Skagway is one of those towns that feels like two different realities sharing the same street. In summer, it's packed. Cruise ships roll in, Broadway fills up, shops are open, cameras everywhere, and the whole place looks like a Gold Rush movie set that never wrapped. Then the season turns, the visitors vanish, and Skagway becomes something else entirely. That's the creepy part, not ghosts, the whiplash. This is a tiny town at the edge of Alaska with a historic district full of buildings that still look like they belong to the late 1800s. You can ride the White Pass and Yukon Route Railway up into the mountains and watch the landscape swallow the town behind you. It's beautiful in a way that makes you uneasy, because you realize how small Skagway really is when the world around it is all rock, water, and weather. And Skagway has another detail that messes with your sense of safety. If you drive, the main highway leads you toward the White Pass and straight into Canada. It has that one road out energy where you're suddenly very aware of your fuel gauge, your signal bars, and how quickly a casual detour becomes a commitment. Locals will warn you about the off-season for a simple reason. The town isn't built for comfort year-round. When the cruise crowds leave, a lot of services scale back or close. Streets get quiet. The storefronts go dark. And that silence hits different when the mountains are looming and the daylight feels shorter than you want it to be. If you ever visit a place like Skagway, the smartest thing you can do is treat it like a real remote town, not a theme park. Check what's actually open before you arrive. Don't assume you can figure it out after dark, and keep a realistic plan for getting back if the weather changes. In Alaska, that's not paranoia. That's basic competence. Skagway is unsettling because it shows you how fast a lively town can turn into an empty stage. And if that sudden silence got under your skin, the next town on this list takes isolation even further, where the map doesn't comfort you and the landscape feels like it's watching back. Number 3. Dudleytown, Connecticut. Some places are creepy because you can explore them. Dudleytown is creepy because you can't. This isn't a normal ghost town with a souvenir shop and a guided tour. Dudleytown is a forgotten settlement, tucked into the woods around Cornwall, and the most unsettling thing about it is the feeling of being denied. Signs, private land, no trespassing, a place that exists in stories more than it exists on a map. That barrier is exactly what makes people obsess over it. Once you hear the name, your brain starts filling in blanks. Locals whisper about curses, madness, disappearances, and a forest that feels too quiet. But the deeper you look, the more you realize the real horror isn't a monster. It's the collision between history and rumor. Dudleytown began as an early New England settlement in the 1700s, then faded as life got harder. Land was tough to farm and people moved on. Over time, the area was reforested, leaving behind the most unsettling kind of ruins: stone foundations, cellar holes, broken walls swallowed by trees. No dramatic wreckage, just the outline of lives that used to be there. And here's where the warning comes in. The reason you're not supposed to go isn't just spooky legends. It's practical. It's private property, and trespassing laws in Connecticut are very real. Old foundations are unstable. The terrain is rough. One wrong step into a hidden cellar hole and your creepy hike becomes a rescue call in a place that's not designed for tourists. If you're drawn to locations like this, the smartest approach is also the least exciting. Respect the signs, stay on legal trails, and remember that forbidden doesn't mean free content. You can tell the story without turning yourself into part of it. Dudleytown is unsettling because it shows how a place can die twice. First, when people leave, and second, when the stories take over and refuse to let it rest. And the next town on this list isn't hidden behind trees or signs. It's famous, visited, and still manages to feel like it's watching every person who walks in. Number 2, Zzyzx, California. There's an exit on I-15 that looks like a typo. One word, all angles, no mercy, Zzyzx. And the moment you see it, your brain does the thing it always does in the desert. What is that, and why does it exist out here? You take the turn, leave the highway noise behind, and drive down a road that feels like it's leading to nothing. Then the landscape changes. Palm trees, water, a quiet little lake called Lake Twende sitting in the Mojave, like someone dragged an oasis out of a dream and forgot to explain it. But Zzyzx isn't a ghost town in the usual way. It's stranger. It's a place with a past that sounds like a late-night radio ad and a present that's almost too official. In the 1940s, a man named Curtis Springer built a health resort here and sold the idea that mineral water and its miracle products could fix your life. It was part spa, part sermon, part marketing campaign. Then the government stepped in, and that era ended the way these stories usually do, not with a scream, but with paperwork. Today, the site is tied to a desert study center, and that's what makes it unsettling. You're standing in a place that used to promise magic, and now it measures reality. You can visit the lake area, walk the short trail, take in the quiet, and then you notice the boundaries. Signs, restricted zones, buildings you're not supposed to enter. It's like the desert is letting you peek behind the curtain, but only from a very specific angle. Locals and rangers warn people for a practical reason. Don't treat this like a casual roadside curiosity. The Mojave is unforgiving. Bring water. Don't assume there's cell service. Don't wander past posted areas. And don't show up at sunset thinking you'll figure it out, because the road back to the highway feels longer when it's dark and you're alone with your own headlights. Zzyzx is creepy because it's a dead end that still has rules. A place that looks abandoned until you realize it isn't. And if a desert oasis with a locked door history gave you chills, number 1 on this list is worse, because it isn't hidden behind signs. It's sitting in plain sight, and the danger is still part of the ground. Number 1, Kaskaskia, Illinois. There's a place in America where the map feels like it's glitching, a piece of Illinois that sits on the wrong side of the Mississippi River. You can be standing in Illinois, while every road around you makes you feel like you're in Missouri. This is Kaskaskia, and what makes it creepy isn't a monster in the woods. It's the quiet realization that nature can rewrite borders without asking permission. Kaskaskia was once huge in the story of Illinois. It served as a territorial capital in the early 1800s and became the first state capital when Illinois joined the Union. It had history, momentum, and the kind of future that sounds permanent. Then the river did what rivers do over long stretches of time. The Mississippi shifted, cut new paths, and reshaped the land until Kaskaskia became an island-like remnant, separated from the rest of Illinois by geography, even though the boundaries stayed the same on paper. That's the unsettling part. You can look across the landscape and feel how close normal is. But getting in and out is not simple, and the town itself feels like a memory that refuses to fully disappear. There's a bell memorial here tied to the old French colonial era, a reminder that this place was once important enough to leave symbols behind. Even if the population today is tiny and the silence does most of the talking. Locals warn people about Kaskaskia in the practical way small towns warn you. Don't underestimate the river. Flood history here isn't theoretical. Roads can be limited, conditions can change, and it's only a quick detour is exactly how travelers get stuck somewhere they didn't plan to spend the night. If you ever visit remote river towns like this, do the boring SMART checks. Before you commit, look at your route in advance. Don't trust "it's close" just because the map says so, and keep enough fuel and daylight to get back out the same way you came in. Rivers create beautiful scenery, but they also create traps for people who improvise. Too late. Kaskaskia is creepy because it proves something simple. A town can lose everything without moving an inch. And once you've seen a place that geography quietly erased, every shortcut on your next road trip starts to feel like a question you should take seriously. So that's the list. 15 small towns that don't just feel creepy because they look strange on camera, but because each one carries a different kind of warning. A place erased by policy, a landscape shaped by industry, a legend that stuck to a real tragedy, or an environment that quietly rewires your mind. And the truth is, the scariest part isn't always what's hiding out there. Sometimes it's how easily a normal place can become a place people avoid, without a headline, without a siren, just over time. Now I want to hear from you. Which town on this list felt the most unsettling and why? And if you've ever driven through a place that made your instincts say, "Don't stop," what happened?